Beautiful, happy people. It is wonderful to be here together again. It is Thursday. It is day 4 of the KickstART 5-day challenge. So we've got just today and tomorrow. And today we're going to be traveling virtually to Michigan, actually Lake Michigan. I'm pretty sure that this is still in Indiana, this beach, but it's on Lake Michigan. So it's going to be, for me, a memory of going there a few years ago with my wife and daughter. We had a little pop-up trailer, and we pulled it up there, and we camped out there on the beach, like at the state park where there's like dunes and all that fun stuff. So this is a memory from that, and I really like the image because it has to do with like the color of the water is really pretty there, and that day was kind of stormy, blustery. So anyways, welcome you guys. Jill, nice to have you from Wyoming here. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. So I also wanted to thank you. A lot of you have come through and you filled out that survey form that I asked you to, and it was really helpful. It's been really helpful. If you haven't yet, see if you check your email this morning. I sent out an email that has a link to the form, and you could just click on that link and fill it out. It probably takes just a few minutes, like 2 or 3 minutes. But we did get some really good feedback, and people just helping us because, you know, it's interesting. We've always found, like since day one, that we are better when we get feedback from you, because we don't really have, and I mean, I'm actually surprised by some of the answers that I got, even in this little feedback form. So, oh yeah, so good to see Mom. My mom is here. Faith, Columbia Falls, Montana. Hey, we have some roots that go back to Montana, so that's fun. Tahoe, Rebecca, nice to have you. From Riderwood, nice to have you. I can't see your name right now, but Sue from Michigan, Evan from Portland. Yeah, woo woo, it is day 4. This is so fun, you guys. I know that, oh, Juneau, it's snowing again. So Patricia, like, what is going on? Is it snowing and melting? Is it snowing and accumulating? Do you have like 3 feet of snow? Do you have 1 foot of snow? Do you have 3 inches of snow? I'm curious because I think it's the 3rd or 4th day in a row that it's been snowing there. So welcome to you from Ontario. Yeah, this is going to be a great time. And I like I was saying, thank you for filling out the survey form. It's helpful, and we gain lots. And it'll enter you into a prize. And I want to let you know this. Okay, there's a need for me to tell you that tomorrow night, like a lot of times on Fridays, we do something called Friday Night Live, and that's where I paint live. But because we're doing this all week, what we're going to do tomorrow night is going to be our celebration. So we're going to take what you guys have been working on. I'm going to like go through Instagram. I'm going to go through the Facebook group, and I'm just going to we're just going to celebrate. We're just going to say, this is fun. Look back at some of the paintings that you all have done, talk about them, and we're going to give away the awards. So I promised awards, but I haven't really talked too much about it. But we do have some awards, and we're basing them off of participation and also this survey form. So if you want to, make sure that you're entered, make sure that you fill out that survey form, because it's one of the best ways to make sure that you're at least like eligible for one of these awards. Now, I can't even tell you exactly what the awards are, because some of it depends on where you're from. Like, we have people who are in here from India, for instance, and what we would offer you as an award, if you're one of the chosen people, would be a little bit different than what we offer somebody who's from, the United States or Canada, because it's easier to ship something here and it costs way less, and we don't really want to charge you for your own award. So we would give you a digital award or something like that. But we do have some things. I've got some different sets of paints. I've got some brushes. I've got some good physical goods. You know, we've got the book that I have, and then we've got some other things that we can give away digitally. So fun things, and that's going to happen tomorrow night in place of our normal Friday Night Live. So if you want to be part of that, make sure you say your schedule. It's you know, it's hard with East Coast, West Coast things, because sometimes what works for us on the West Coast is late for you on the East Coast, or you know, there's all these things. So we try to pick a time that works, but it's not always the best for everybody. So I apologize for that, but it's going to be 6 o'clock p.m. West Coast time, 9 o'clock p.m. East Coast time. So again, I'll tell you more about that. We'll put links in there. But I want to show you a couple things here about our setup today. But first, I'm going to, oh boy, whoopsie. Okay, I've got to do something here real quick. Again, I forgot to plug this computer back in. If I ever take my laptop and I move it because I need to work on it, I sometimes forget to plug it back in. So here's what I'm looking at today. We've got this Facebook group that's so awesome, and it's so fun to see all your stuff. And I know that we have some we've had some issues of like trying to find the reference photos. So what I did is I put them all here on the KickstART page. So if you go here and you're trying to figure out where's the reference photo, or even if you're looking back at old ones and you want to find those reference photos, they're right here. You just click on it and it will pull it up for you for today's painting right here. And it's the same thing. You can see what we're going to paint tomorrow if you click on that. But if you haven't, I'm just going to leave that as a little surprise for you. And then, of course, we've got all this cool stuff going on. I like love seeing this. So we'll do more of this tomorrow, going through and celebrating and looking at what you guys all have done. And that's what I don't like about Facebook, is how it pops stuff up. But that's what's going to happen tomorrow. Today we're going to be painting this great scene, like I said, from Lake Michigan. It is from a trip that I took with my family a few years ago, and super fun. So, okay, and tomorrow for our Friday thing, Peter's actually going to join me tomorrow in the morning session, so we'll be able to do that. Kimberly, well, welcome from Venice, Florida. Nice to have you. Faith says, hey, Mom. Ellie says hi with paintbrush in her hand. That's fun. So, you know, one of the things I realized is that, you know, we did some challenges last year, and I didn't do anything like this. I didn't do any live painting or anything. That was just kind of an added thing that I thought I'd do this time around, because I thought it could be fun to kind of hang out and have a little, yes, Julie. If you check your email today, if you are registered, if you actually registered yourself on that KickstART page, you should have received an email this morning from me that will have a link to that survey. Yeah, but so I heard some feedback. One of the things is could you tell us what you're going to tone your canvas before you start? Which is why I left my canvas totally white today, because I wanted to be able to tone it with you if we're going to do that. And but you know, it's yeah, it's always, like I said, I love getting the feedback, because we kind of come up with ideas. Usually it's me. I usually have ideas that, you know, they just come out and I don't know what to do with them. So I usually act on them, or we try to decide whether they're worth acting on. And sometimes they're worth it, and sometimes they're not. You know, we're always trying to make good decisions. And so, like I said, the feedback's super helpful. And again, I'm making a change today because of that feedback. Basically, he said, you know, show us what you're going to do with the toning of the canvas. So I decided that I wouldn't tone it at all until we got going. So there you go. Your feedback matters. Makes a difference. So I'm using this Liquitex marker here, which if you don't have, that's totally fine. You could mix up a little gray paint if you wanted and grab a little brush and do the exact same thing that I'm doing. Or you could just use a pencil. It doesn't really have to be this kind of paint marker. I like these paint markers. They're kind of fun to use, but they're not in any way like something that you have to have or anything like that. But they're kind of cool, and I like them as being kind of a unique thing that you can use with acrylic paints. But by no means are they, you know, something that you have to have or anything like that. So I actually think that I might change this a little bit more than what it is. I kind of forgot as I started doing my drawing, but I think what I might end up doing here is like taking away some of this like brick wall and this large concrete path. I might make it a little bit smaller and make it a little bit more like feeling like it's not so like man-made, like it's a little bit more natural, like maybe it's a gravel path or something like that. But I think that I'm kind of switching here. I'm getting rid of this the brick kind of wall that is holding that up, and I'm going to make it a little bit more like it is on this side with just some plants that come down, some grass, and maybe a little bit of sand going up. Because I think that, you know, it's not bad that this is from a state park and all that. But sometimes it's nice to just have that natural feel. And I'm going to bring out this tree just a little bit more that's up here in the corner. And then one of the things I love about this scene is all these. Okay, so I see some questions here. Good morning from Wizard Lake. Christine, glad you're here. Not seeing your photo. Oh, sorry, guys. I forgot to go like this. There's the reference photo on there. And of course, you can go, like I just showed you, to the Acrylic University. If you're on YouTube, you can go to, there should be a link that has the actual site, but I'll show you once again just so you know where to go for sure. And if somebody else can save this as a as a link that you could put up in the comments or something, that'd be awesome. But this is what it is right here, acrylicuniversity.com/kickstart. And if you come down here, you can see this reference photo right here. And that is, I don't know, whatever. Maybe, I hope that wasn't blocking, the reference photo wasn't actually blocking something for you. But that's what's up today. And these clouds are fun, and the sky's fun, and the color of this water in here, I hope will be kind of neat. So if you look at the clouds, like one of the things that you will notice about clouds is that they kind of hover at the same height. They kind of have a flat bottom. You know, they're all, and so like they kind of come toward us at an angle like this. So when you're thinking about painting clouds, you can pay attention to that a little bit, because it's usually the top of the clouds that has more variety in its shape, but the bottom of the clouds it's not totally flat, but you can kind of tell like there is a little bit more of a flat aspect to them, and it can help, you know, visually portray that they're kind of at the same height in the air and like the perspective. And as it gets more above you, it's like you see less of that perspective. It's more evident when they're lower on the horizon. And this is a Liquitex paint marker. I think I said that before, but show painting. Okay, yeah, well, no, James, you could post your painting on Instagram, and if you use the hashtag #AUKickstart, AU, like Acrylic University, Kickstart, I'll be able to find it if you put it on Instagram. Thank you for posting that, that link there. Hello from Indianapolis. All right, I'm going to be going to Indiana next week. Super fun. Okay. So, you know, yesterday we were talking about this, and one of the things that can happen with your the paint marker is like if I took water, I'm just going to take some water and I'm going to kind of scrub over this. And I mean, it's not coming out that easily, but if I keep scrubbing at it, it will kind of go away, right? Like I can kind of erase it. So, and depending on the kind of marker you have, it might vary a little bit in the color, you know, things like that. So if you want to keep that like design in the next stage, one of the things that I would recommend is coming through with, before you maybe do any toning, and I actually don't know if I'm going to tone the canvas today. I was watching, if you guys are interested, I'll share something that I found yesterday. So if you're on Instagram and you go to Scottsdale Artist School, if you look them up, they had a little video in there yesterday from an artist that I just discovered kind of recently. His name is Bill Hook, or William Hook, and he did a little demo and it was super cool. It was actually like really fun to watch. And he used, well, I don't know, he's somebody that I admire quite a bit these days, and he did this sky, and I'm just going to start out. I don't normally paint the sky first. If you know me, I don't. But I'm going to do it because this is what he did yesterday in his painting. I'm like, oh, you know what? Why don't I do it? Why don't I do the same thing here? So we're going to work with a little gradation. So I basically have phthalo blue. I put in a little tiny bit of yellow because as it goes up in the sky, it gets more blue. But down towards the bottom, there is a little bit more of a lighter, kind of almost a yellowish feel to it. So I'm going to add ultramarine blue. This is kind of what he did. And it's because he used, at the bottom of the painting of the sky, he used phthalo green, not phthalo blue. He used phthalo green. And as it went up, he started adding ultramarine blue, which is what I'm doing here, right? But I didn't have phthalo green out. I just had phthalo blue. So I just kind of used what I had, and I put in the little bit of cadmium yellow to turn it a little bit more green. So kind of see how this goes, what this looks like. But this is the background. kind of behind the clouds, the sky behind the clouds. So we don't have to fill in everything. And I can see through this a little bit because it's a little bit scratchy. And I can kind of see, I think I want that to get a tiny bit darker up here just to keep the gradation looking like it's changing. We'll just kind of work with it like this. And you can use a spray bottle. He was using his spray bottle quite a bit when he was doing this, his demo. And there's a little bit of sky over here that I feel like I should have filled in a little bit more. So, oh well, whatever. It'll mostly be land, and I can put in a couple clouds over there, but okay. Then what was interesting was he actually grabbed a color that he called magenta. To me, it looked, I think he was using Liquitex brand paints, and the color that he grabbed looked pink to me. Like it wasn't very dark. But I don't have that color exactly. I do have quinacridone magenta, but the color that I have is darker than what he was using. But what he did was he grabbed, I guess I'll grab some quinacridone magenta just to show, because I think I can make it, I'll just add a little bit of white to it. And it kind of cut out, they didn't show everything, but essentially he had this pink color, and he was talking about how, you know, in contrast to some of this color in the sky, the kind of green, this magenta would stand out and be kind of a nice contrast in the clouds. And so this is my first time doing this. I haven't really done this, but we want to mix it up to be a little bit more of a violet. That's what I'm thinking. If I remember what his painting looked like, it wasn't really pink, but it did have some undertones of that color in the clouds. And it needs to be fairly light still. But we'll put this kind of down as the undercolor underneath these, like the belly of these clouds down here. And I feel like it looks kind of nice. Just thinking about the actual color, I think it's reads pretty good. And I kind of erased a lot of the clouds that I had up here, so I'll come back through and see if I can put them back in. Maybe add a little bit more blue to these ones up here. And again, like this is the shadow side of the cloud, not the part that's really in the sunlight. So we're going to come back over the top of these, and we'll add the sunlight. But it's pretty cool watching him paint because, I mean, if you're part of Acrylic University and you were at one of the last Q&As, live Q&As with me, I was sharing a little bit from his book because I discovered him more recently at Scottsdale Artist School because he teaches there. And I was saying how I really wish that I would have been able to go to his workshop, which is happening right now, like currently as we speak. But it was pretty neat to see that demo, which I wasn't expecting. I don't know if I've ever really seen them do that, but it was really cool that they offered that, put that out there, especially for me because I was like, oh my goodness, this is so amazing because I really wanted to go to that workshop, and now at least I get a little bit of a picture of it. And it's kind of awesome how, like, this one little thing that he shared about the sky and how he was going about painting it, like I'm already having a chance to test it out and see how it works. And I learned something new, even just about that magenta color that he added into the clouds, and how it kind of contrasted with some of the sky color. Made it interesting. Liquitex medium magenta. Okay, you just read his book. Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't see what it was, but I did see one of the tubes of paint that he had, and it looked like it was Liquitex. How do you get it to look so soft, smooth, and blended? Well, I think you're talking about the sky probably here. And you know, one of the things that's been helpful for me with blending a little bit is these brushes are nice because they're Princeton. You can hardly read it anymore on there, but they're called Catalyst brushes, and they have a pretty soft bristle. And so, like, this is mostly, I would call this kind of like, it's kind of wet and wet blending, but it's actually kind of just almost like a dry brush blending, because some of this is kind of already, it's getting drier, I guess I could say. Might not be totally dry yet, but so it's a lot of it is just like I'm just kind of dragging my brush. I'm not putting a ton of pressure on it and allowing it to it's kind of make light marks, and then it gives the appearance of a soft edge. And then, of course, like initially I did work fast, wet and wet. And if you were looking, if you watch his, he'll use a spray bottle a lot, and he'll kind of keep the paint on his canvas fairly wet, and so it's like he can kind of come back into it and be blending those colors together for a little while, because he's got, you know, that water kind of interacting with it and keeping it moist. So you can do that too. I found that there's a number of ways, you know, like I'm blending with my finger right there. There's a number of ways to accomplish softer, like blended feel in your acrylic paintings. And there's not one way that's necessarily better than others. Sometimes for me, it's like, what does the painting call for at that moment? Because, you know, it might be like I don't have maybe the chance to spray everything. I wouldn't want to spray this all right now because it would be too, it would actually wreck some of the stuff that's going on, because, well, it wouldn't wreck it. I mean, I could probably fix it, but it would complicate it a little bit temporarily, because I've already kind of got the background, and if I sprayed water on it right now, it would like put little sprinkles everywhere, and I'd have to go over everything that I've already done. So yeah, that's why I'm using a little bit more of a dry brush idea right now, whereas in the beginning it would have been easier to spray the whole thing. Okay, so kind of did that. And if you know me, this is a little bit backwards. I usually paint the sky afterwards. So this is kind of like painting opposite in my world. A lot of people paint this way all the time, just not me. But I'm gonna keep going here, and I'm gonna do the water next. And for that, I want to use this phthalo blue again, because it's a nice rich blue. And it's kind of interesting, right? You look at this water, and it's fairly dark up there at the top, and it's got a bit of color. And this color that I have mixed up right now, it might be too dark. I'm pretty aware that it's pushing it a little bit, so I'm gonna lighten it just a tad, because I have this feeling like, yeah, it's probably gonna be too dark. But let's pull this across. And if you wanted, in a case like this, you could use some masking tape and tape that off to guarantee that you're going to have a really straight and kind of level line. But I'm not going to do that right now. I'm grabbing some of this mixed green here and a little bit more white as it comes down. Maybe a little yellow straight up. Because I want this color, and that's probably, yeah, it is still too dark. Just looking at the contrast, I need to come back in here and do a little bit of work to lighten this color slightly. And part of it is, well, we'll just keep going with it. I'm not gonna do too much here to change everything on that. If we need to come back later and adjust it, we can. Mostly putting in white into it now as it comes down. But the contrast between what I have and the photograph is, you can see it's much stronger contrast. So I am gonna just go over that whole thing with this lighter color mixed in. And unless I keep changing it, it still might not be light enough. And I'm adding a little bit of yellow as we get closer. And we're going to come back to add some more, a little bit more variety, like the white cap kind of feel of those waves. But I might try to bring a little bit of that variety in. Just to show some of the motion. Okay. So let's see. What this means now basically is we've got kind of got this set up to paint this foreground on top of that. And because I've kind of, I mean, I don't know if I want to, I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to come into the sky now, and I'm going to try to get the sky a little bit closer to what I know it needs to be in the end, because I'm having this feeling right now that I don't think I want to come. So right now I'm grabbing almost this pure white. There's some clouds up here that I think could really benefit from having a more pure, you know, kind of white hit it. They're lighter, they're in the direct sunlight, and I think having that will help with, you know, providing a little bit more contrast, and maybe doing something with the interaction between these clouds and the sky too. There's a chance that I'm going to need to bring a little bit of like darker color kind of to the bottom of those clouds. That's kind of what I'm looking at right now, is how is the contrast between the top of the clouds and the bottom of the clouds. Okay, I'm looking back. The spray messed it up for me just now. Yeah, I mean, the spray it's a great tool, but it can be tricky. One of my favorite paintings that I ever did, I was spraying and going back into stuff, and then there was a time when the spray, I felt like, oh no, the spray, I put some paint down and I thought it was almost dry, and I sprayed some water on top of it, and it made it all sprinkled, and it made it all, in my opinion, I was like, oh man, I just really wrecked that. But I kept working on it, and it actually ended up being really kind of cool, and it turned out. So don't give up on it. But it can be really tricky. Jamie, I see you say opposite in your world or my world, and yeah, like totally opposite of negative painting. I mean, wherever you're at, whatever you're used to, it will feel different. Colors of the water and another beach scene. Yes, glad it's making you happy. The colors of the water are awesome. Good, I'm glad. Do you wash your palette paper? No, I didn't. I did, well, I did kind of. I took my palette knife and I scraped around where all the mixed paint was, and then I took a paper towel and I did kind of wash it, but I obviously left the piles of paper. Yeah, you can see across to the Chicago skyline from, yeah, Michigan City. I think, I don't remember if this is Michigan City or not, but it is somewhere right around there for sure. How would I add a faint skyline? I don't think I would, personally, but just because I wouldn't. But if I was doing it, I would just, it'd probably be pretty light, and it would probably be, you know, I mean, the proportion would matter a lot, but you wouldn't want it to stand out too much, I don't think. And can I talk more about painting water? Well, as I get into it, I will a little bit, but in general, I'm just looking, I mean, really, I'm looking at the water, the waves, and I'm thinking about like what's going on in the waves, right? You know, we know we're gonna add some of this lighter color, like the white, kind of into it, because there are these little breakers that are coming, and so I'm just looking at what's there. Most of what I find in painting has to do with observation and trying to, you know, figure out how to convey what you see. And, you know, if we're looking at these waves, we see that the top of the breakers is flat. There's a little bit of a shadow in the breakers, like, or in the waves, I should say, where, you know, you can see the difference between, you know, part that is kind of rolled over toward us and it's darker, it's causing a little bit of a shadow or something like that. And then there's a part that's like flat on top. You can actually see a little bit of a cooler light reflected if you look carefully. So there's a fair amount of stuff that you can observe, and that's, I don't have any super great tips off the top of my head in terms of like, this is a rule about painting water. The most, you know, helpful thing I could say right now, I think, is just, what do you see? And just kind of trying to capture what you see. Like right now, this paint down there is still wet. I thought it might be a little bit drier. But sometimes, one general rule I would say is sometimes like less is more. So don't necessarily think that you have to, you know, do a ton of stuff to make it look like water. Sometimes it doesn't take as much as you're maybe thinking it will take. So less can be more. Yeah, and I mean, I can still see that the water line in my painting is, you know, that's still, it at least appears right now to be a really much stronger contrast than what's in the photograph. But what I'm going to do before I go and change that, I'm going to come in and I'm going to do the work on the trees and the bushes and the branches and all this stuff, because it might be that as we bring in some of these elements, you know, as we get this grass in and different stuff, which I'm just looking at it and I keep missing little areas. Like this is water here. At least I want it to have the chance to be water, unless it gets covered. But this foreground has our darkest values, right? So as I'm putting this in, this is black mixed with my mixed green. And so it's not pure black, but you can see how dark that is now in contrast to the sky and in contrast to even the water. And it might make it feel like the other stuff is actually exactly what it should be. Like it might make that value look correct. So that's why, you know, the idea of filling in, blocking in all your colors is a pretty helpful idea, because until you get all your colors next to each other and all those values on the canvas, it can be difficult to judge the values that are on there, especially when you're painting straight onto a white canvas like this. You don't have anything. I mean, everything looks dark compared to white. I see, James, your question, you're asking, can you paint the clouds first and then glaze the shadows on them? So I think you're saying like maybe paint the white part first and then put the shadows on the underneath side. And you probably could. I don't know why you couldn't do that. I generally tend to paint from dark to light, so that's kind of why I do it the way I do. But it doesn't mean that you couldn't do it the other way. But you know, in those clouds, there's nothing really dark in them. It's like the shadow isn't really that dark of a shadow. But I still kind of tend to want to have the light stuff on top and the dark stuff underneath. Now I've kind of pushed this bushy thing off to the side a little bit more. I think partly because I like the water, but I'm going to bring it back a little bit further. And again, like, because I'm painting on top of the water and the sky, like this is, I can probably come back and do a little bit of negative painting here if I want, but I'm going to be a little bit, I'm going to try to be a little bit of like more careful with, you know, what these brush strokes look like, because I'm not planning on really coming back and, you know, cutting all of this out like I normally might do. So again, I'm just kind of covering up things to some degree. I'm still thinking about the colors somewhat, but a lot of this is just getting some of this covered, and then we'll have another chance to come back and make some adjustments. this is where it also is kind of important to think through, okay, this design. I tend to, I don't know if you do this or not, but by default, if I'm not careful, I'll tend to make bushes and trees just round little boring things. And it takes effort and intentionality for me to not do that. like if this part down here wasn't there, it would probably look a little bit better. And I can come back and do some negative painting. But that's what I'm thinking about right now is, okay, so, you know, you changed some of this, you changed a little bit of the shape of this, and it's fine to do that, but is it going to now look like a really kind of boring or simplistic ball of tree? And how can we make it look better than that? And right now I don't feel like I have that figured out with this tree over here, because I'm not following the picture completely, and I'm not following anything else that I drew out, so I'm just kind of guessing right now, which isn't my favorite place to be. Okay, we've got some of this grass on this side now that's coming down, and it's in the sunlight. And I feel like some of these colors and values will get brought up. Like I'm planning on basically coming back into them and bringing in more values that are kind of like this, like where the sunlight will feel a little bit more apparent. That's what's kind of great about this scene, is that you've got the contrast between the light and the shadows. And it might be kind of nice, I'm just thinking about this right now, but I didn't really bring in any phthalo blue into the shadows, but just thinking about the color of the water, and to tie it in a little bit more, because this mixed green was between ultramarine blue and cadmium yellow. So I'm grabbing a little bit of phthalo blue now to bring into these shadows, and maybe even into some of the sunlit areas or the lighter areas. And I'm thinking about tying in some of the color. I mean, the goal of that is just pretty much to tie in the color of the lake. Okay, so now we're over here. This is the tree that is going to be a little bit more like shaped and drawn in. And this, honestly, this is like really out of my comfort zone, because I don't do this. And I feel like this is another thing where, boy, it takes some real good design skill to to come up with a nice tree kind of pattern, right? Like what would make this tree look nice? It's not, in my opinion, like, it doesn't just happen. It takes conscious effort, and sometimes that's, I don't know, like, because I do it most of the time after the fact with negative shape painting, I feel like it's I'm just not totally confident in my brush marks and stuff, because I'm like, oh man, like, what if I put it down somewhere where I don't really want it? All that kind of stuff. I still can come back. If I don't like something, I can always come back, and I can always do some negative painting around this, and I probably will. At least a little bit. But I should probably stretch myself. I mean, this is why I like doing stuff like this, is because it is a stretch for me. It's kind of like, okay, you know, I always am challenging other people to stretch themselves and to try new things and all that. And so it's good to take my own advice every once in a while and do something that's a little bit out of my comfort zone. You know, I don't know if you might hear a little fan in the background. It's not a water feature, or you might hear birds chirping. Oh, that's so cool, James. I just am looking at this, what you said about from Diane, who is speaking on Jamestown. Thank you, Jed. That's so cool that this got you into painting again for the first time, maybe in a long time. That's awesome. Well, I'm happy about that, James. Well, and I see your other comment there about that you can do fine art in acrylic paints. I mean, that, oh boy, don't get me started, right? Like, that's my big thing. And in fact, you can wish me luck next week when I go back to a place where the last time I was at this competition, I felt like I had painted my best painting ever in plein air. Like, I really thought it turned out well. Like, it was interesting subject, I thought, like all this stuff. And when I showed my friends, because it was the night before the competition, that I painted in the afternoon, and we were all staying at a cabin together. And I went back that evening, and we were all like showing each other what we'd been working on that day, because sometimes you paint right next to each other, and sometimes you go off and do your own thing. And I had gone off and done my own thing, and man, like, they were like really impressed with it. Like, I showed it the next day, and like basically everybody I talked to was like, man, I think you're gonna win. Like, this is gonna win. And it's just the crazy thing. But I mean, and I've won competitions before, and so acrylics, my acrylic paintings have beat oil paintings. They've come in first place, grand prize, whatever you want to say. And so it's not like across the board, but there have been some times when I'm like, wait a second, like, why? This wasn't necessarily one of them. I don't know for sure if this is why I didn't win, but I was feeling so uber confident about myself that I like decided to put on my, I don't know, I have this alter ego named Turn Up Ted. And I put on my Turn Up Ted outfit and I started walking around. I was like, and I was just having so much fun. Because I was like feeling really good about my painting and everything. And anyways, it's a long story, but I ended up not winning. I didn't win the grand prize, best in show. I didn't win first prize. I didn't win second prize. I didn't even win third prize. I like won. I was maybe I was like the fourth in line. Like I got some honorable mention or something like that. And I was like, you know, it was like the second time when I thought that I was going to win something, and I did it. I did. I won a prize, and it was worthy prize. It wasn't like it was nothing. And I sold the painting immediately afterwards, which always validates me. Like sometimes, like when I haven't won a prize, I will immediately the painting sells, and I'm like, well, okay, at least somebody, maybe not the judge, but there was somebody who really loved it, and you know, it makes you feel a little bit better. But you can wish me luck next week, man, because I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do my best for the sake of acrylics, and see what we can do to raise the bar up higher, because that's a big part of what I you know, why I wanted to start Acrylic University, why I am passionate about what I do. I have this chip on my shoulder. I want people to know that acrylics are a viable medium for you to paint, and even paint outside. You know, it's I get it. Like it's a lot harder to paint in Arizona outside with acrylic paints because the dry time, you know, like it's significant. Like there's a difference, and I'm not trying to say that it's going to work for everybody in every situation or anything like that, but I've painted outside in 95-degree weather in Indiana and in the direct sunlight even, and you know, it can be done. So that's what my goal is next week, is to just bring that a little bit closer to the reality, especially for us who live in the United States. I know that in Canada and in other parts of the world, like there is a little bit more of a, it's okay. Like people are more used to acrylic paints for whatever reason, and they're more used to them being kind of like a professional choice. But in the United States, I find like it's growing. I keep hearing from people it's growing, and I do believe that it is. And I see, you know, even students in Acrylic University, or you know, people that get connected in different ways. I'm like, yeah, man, like that's awesome, because I see some really amazing stuff going on. But I'm glad that was an encouragement to you, because I don't think there's any reason. But there is there's a slight stigma still, I feel. Like I think it's getting less, and I really love it when I see artists that are maybe even like they're not traditionally acrylic painters. They've worked in oil a ton, but then I see them venturing out and trying acrylics and saying, oh wow, like this is really cool, I like this. And it kind of gives a little bit of extra validation to it, because they already have the respect of the art world. And so then when they're saying it's a good medium, it makes it easier for, you know, the gallery person or whoever is like kind of critical to go, oh, okay, maybe I'll listen because you are somebody that we care about. It is leftover colonial elitism. What size canvas are you using? This is a 12 by 12. Yeah, my cousin Ted, man, that's who it is. Is there a quick draw at the first brush of spring? Yes, there is. New Harmony, Indiana, absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I'm looking at what you say, Terry. Acrylics they take a lot of skill, but they are forgiving. They're super forgiving. And in some ways, it's actually like easier. So it just is how you look at it. Like I can paint 5 layers of paint in the time that somebody else can paint 1 layer of paint. And, you know, I can work back into things really fast, and I can make adjustments and changes. So I look at it like, yeah, I don't feel like it's a disadvantage at all. I actually think in a lot of ways acrylics are an advantage. But you know, they do look a little different. Like, you're not going to have exactly the same feel to a painting. And I think that that's sometimes what people, you know, they're looking for a particular appearance in a plein air painting or in a painting. And, you know, if they don't see that, they just kind of are biased against it. But we'll see. I'm going to do my best to break that out. Okay, so this shadow down here is probably not quite as violet as I'm making it. Probably need to add a little bit of other color to it. But it does have a bit of this violet and blue feel. Oh man, I just am reading your comment about people like realizing it was acrylics. You know yeah, it's annoying, but you know what? It is going to change, and it is changing. And my thing is just keep doing awesome work. Like, do work that people cannot deny. Do work that says, yeah, it doesn't even matter. Like, and that's why, like, when I have had times when, you know, people have said, or, you know, I don't win a prize, and then like this really big art collector is there and they like immediately buy the painting. They're coming up to me and they're like, I want to buy your painting. You know, what can we do? This same guy, actually 2 years in a row, he's one of the bigger collectors from what I know. I don't know him really, but he's bought 2 of my paintings down there, 2 separate years, that didn't win a prize, or, you know, didn't win the prize that I thought they were worthy of, at least. And so I'm like, you know, that's cool, because like this guy that he's obviously collected a ton of art, and he knows what he likes, and he loves the work that I've done on these 2 separate occasions. And that helps me, you know, feel like, okay, you know what? Because there was a time when I really thought I needed to change to oils, and just for that reason. Like, I didn't know if, you know, would people respect my work and like it and stuff like that. And I think that it's, you know, like, you just keep doing good work and people get over it, and they'll, you know, when they see other people buying your work or whatever it is, they'll have a change of their own opinion. It's happening, and it will continue to happen. Okay. So, yeah, and all mediums take skill. Sarah, you're totally right. Like, I mean, everything has a different challenge. You know, pastel artists, you know, like, they're often overlooked too. You know, not always, but depending on what you know, competition you're in, or different things, or people who paint in gouache. You know, I feel like there's a lot of things that don't get recognition. Like, when I went to the plein air convention, I'm just thinking, I've actually only made it to the one because the next year was canceled. But when I was there, they didn't even have a tag for me, for like a badge. They have these things for your lanyard. Everybody who's a teacher gets a lanyard, and they tell people what you paint in. And they didn't even have one that was for acrylics. And of course, I'm like, the little chip on my shoulder got a little bit bigger, because I'm like, okay, here we go. we got to reform this too. And, but I don't think they had one for gouache either, you know, and I realized that after the fact. I'm like, yeah, you know, like we're not alone. And every medium has its challenges. Every medium has, you know, I mean, I'm pretty sure that acrylics worldwide are the most used medium. I don't know if I've seen, I can't point you to an article or something that I read that say that, but I'm almost 100% sure that that's true. So like, you know, I mean, that's an advantage to acrylics that, you know, other things don't have. But anyways, you know, I think that the reason people use gouache is because you can come back and you can mix back into it, and you can do some things like to blend. And so if you're really used to blending things after the fact, which all oil painters are, that's probably the hardest part for them to get used to. And with acrylics, like, because once the acrylic paint dries, unless you're using, there is like one kind of acrylic paint that I think you might be able to go back into, and I think you spray a certain kind of thing on there, and so it like reactivates it. But I think that that's why an oil painter would avoid them, because you can't ever really go back in and, like, I can't come back in here and blend this after the fact. But with gouache, I've never used them myself, but that's what I understand is like you can wet it, and then you can come back and paint like it was basically fresh paint. But that's also why you have to frame your gouache paintings, which to me is not the, you know, or put on like this fixative stuff or some kind of varnish or something, that from what I understand from the oil painters that I know that are like maybe the most serious, I should say gouache painters that I know, they don't like that because they think that it changes the color and different stuff of the painting. So they don't like that. They would rather frame it. And so I don't know. I don't like things getting in between the art and the viewer. And glass, to me, unless you have that really expensive museum glass that you can barely see at all, I feel like it affects the painting and the immediacy kind of seeing what you did, like the viewer's ability to see what you did and what you're trying to accomplish in your painting. So that's why I don't know, like for me, I don't think I would use gouache for that reason, even though there's some cool, you know, things about it. So Sarah, you can tell me what those cool things are about gouache, because I don't know. I mean, I do know the things that I said, but gouache is what I use for watercolors where I wanted it opaque. Yeah. I've been experimenting in the car to capture a scene real quick in a scrapbook. So what I'm looking at this, and I think that overall it's got a decent feel. But this color here is a little bit too warm. It doesn't really jive with the shadow. So I'm coming back and I'm going to add some cooler, just ultramarine blue into it. It's going to be reflecting the sky a little bit more, and that's why the blue kind of makes sense in there. And I'm probably going to try to, I'm just looking at this, the pattern of the, you know, because at a certain point you get to a place where you can look at now basically everything's covered, right? So everything's blocked in. And it's kind of the first time where I can look and see the values and the colors next to each other, and really start to evaluate where there's stuff that needs to be adjusted. You know, like, is the violet on the path way too violet? Yeah, it probably needs to be toned down a little bit. And I think that I could also bring up, you know, this color a little bit in value, and maybe do a little bit in terms of, you know, some more nuanced, a little bit more nuanced, like shadows and light and stuff like that. But when I look at it in general, I feel like, okay, you know what? It's got a decent feel. Like I think it's not terrible, right? So, Jigger, good to see you again. And thanks for the $5. I appreciate that. I always love seeing the Canadian maple leaf on people's profiles. It's always fun since I'm half Canadian. You like the violet on the path? Good, good. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because it looks kind of like pastel. Yeah, I can see that. I love the way that pastels look. You know, like, honestly, I love the vibrant, and I love, you know, one of the things that I kind of liked about this idea, I'm going to bring over my now somewhat, this is like a really old paint box, but one of the things that I kind of liked about this was it kind of felt like the pastel idea, like you're picking colors from this larger, like, you know, you've got all these individual colors, like not nearly as many colors as a pastel painter, you know, has at their disposal, which is, I don't know, it's pretty cool. But I love, like, we have a friend who, just visiting her studio or even looking at her website and seeing all the colors. I mean, it's just like, it's art in itself, right? I think that that's probably the thing about pastels that appeals to me the most, is just seeing all the color. And I don't know, that is really cool. Yeah, Marla Baguetta is the one that I'm actually referring to. I met her. She's actually the reason that like, the biggest influence for me in terms of, you can say hi for me. And she's one of the biggest reasons that we started Acrylic University. I met her up in Canada at the not first brush of fall, but Fall Color Week with Eric Rhodes. And I was talking to her a ton that week because somehow I you know, met her, and we were talking over dinner or something like that. And she said that she had this, you know, teaching platform that she was using and building and all this stuff. And so I was like, oh, really interesting. Like, tell me about it. So we got talking, and we talked. I mean, she'll probably, I mean, I don't know how much she remembers, but I'm sure she remembers pretty much as I do. But I would, like, every chance I had, I was asking her questions like, okay, so what do you do? You know, how do you do this? And she gave me a ton of ideas, because all I'd ever really thought about before was YouTube, like, you know, doing something on YouTube. And her model was quite different, and it was cool. And it was really intriguing to me, because I was like, that's what I think needs to happen with acrylics. I think we need to get something going on like that. But I didn't know how to do it. So she was a huge influence on me. In fact, after we'd started, I went down to Portland. We were trying to go down to California and ended up getting stuck in Portland because of wildfires that were happening in California that year. And so Peter and I were like making plans, like switching our plans and saying, okay, well, what are we going to do? Like, should we, who should we talk to? And I remembered that Marla lived in Portland. So I thought, well, why don't I reach out to her and see if we can, go visit her at her studio and stuff. And she was really kind and let us come over. We went and hung out with her for like a little while. And it was fun. It's really cool. She's a great artist too. And she does a lot of cool things. Like, she's a good teacher. I actually, I haven't really been involved in anything that she's done too much, but I've watched some of her live streams on YouTube, and I feel like she does a really good job with them. Okay, I'm going back. I'm just, whoopsie. I didn't mean to do that. But not that I wouldn't do that. It's just that I accidentally clicked something. Okay. Yeah. Acrylics are a stepchild in the art world. Oh, that's interesting. So basically you're saying because she did that acrylic lesson, it got you kind of interested in acrylics, and now that's why you're actually doing anything here with this. That's kind of crazy. Yeah. Okay. Same here, Sarah Rose. What green is that in the upper left corner? Oh, well, this up here it's just basically this ultramarine blue and cadmium yellow mix with maybe a little bit more yellow in there. And that probably will change before I'm done because I don't really love that. I think of Impressionism at the turn of the century as a slog, but so worth it. Yeah, I think you're right. I think everything just takes time. You're very welcome, Carrie or Carol. It's my joy to do it. Artists think of acrylic paints as a garnish. Let's see if I can show this, which they can be at times. Check out Gil Dellinger, Robert Bateman. Oh yeah, I'm with you. Like Robert Bateman, I was so amazed when I realized that like almost all of his work is in acrylic. Just blew me away, because I thought for a while, one of my thinking, because I'd heard, well, you can sell oil paintings for more. And then I realized Robert Bateman painted in acrylic, and I'm like, well, shoot, his painting sold for like $100,000 or something. So I don't really think there's a ceiling on it. But Gil Dellinger is the one who got me into these Winsor & Newton professional acrylics, because he was on, I went on to Eric Rhodes's live stream thing that he does. And like 2 days before I was on there, something really close to when I was on there, Gil was on there. And I realized, okay, he's an acrylic painter, and he was talking about these paints and why he liked them, and why he would recommend them. And it was all because they had less color shift. And so I was like, oh shoot, like honestly, I watched it. I think I went on the show like on a Friday. I think I watched his thing on a Monday or a Tuesday, and I saw him say that, and I went on to Blick that day, and I rush ordered these paints, and they got to me on Thursday, and I used them on Friday on my live stream with Eric. It was my first time using them. So it was just saying, like, Gil, I need to check out more. What he did that day looked really cool. I think he's a pretty incredible artist, and I'd like to spend a little bit more time like looking at his stuff and trying to learn a little bit more of his experience and background, and glean what I can from him. It's always super cool to me. It's the same thing why I got so excited when I found, what's his name? The guy I've been talking about the last couple of days, William Hook, because it's like when you feel like you're kind of fighting a battle, or like you're trying to figure stuff out, and like for me, I don't know how many of you know my story about I was trying to get better. Like I became a full-time artist, and I had a wife and a daughter that I'm like, okay, a lot of artists, their spouse or significant other has like, they're a doctor or something. I have friends that, yeah, they're a full-time artist, but their wife makes like 200 grand a year and they're fine. Like if they sell painting, it doesn't matter, right? So like to me, the world that I live in is like, nope, I paint for a living and I teach for a living. And this is my wife, Renee. Like if you're part of Acrylic University, you know that she's not a small part. She's massively involved, but this is what we do. I'm an artist and that's our income. Like I don't do something else. And so I don't know where I was going, except that I was just saying that like when I was starting out, I'm like trying to get better because I realized, okay, if I'm going to do this, if I am actually going to provide for my family, I need to be the best artist I can be. And I started looking for acrylic painters that I could learn from. And the ones that I saw, because I was living in Indiana, and again, it's partly your location. I think there might be other parts of the United States that have more people or not, but there's not a ton. Like even now, I don't know of like super big number of acrylic painters that I've discovered. I've realized there's more than I knew back then, but it's not a super huge amount. And especially who paint landscapes or representational art. And so I reached out to the people that I knew. Like, so one of my heroes, of course, is Mike Svab. He's like the first person that I studied under. He's a Canadian, if you don't know, and amazing artist. He's actually who got me painting in acrylics, him and Robert Genn. And totally like inspired me. And so, but he was living in Canada. I'd already taken a couple workshops from him, and I was like, I want to try somebody else. So I didn't reach out to him because I could have, but he was like the only person I knew that taught in acrylics, and I'd already taken a couple workshops from him. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to reach out to somebody else. And the first person I found was, the first person I thought of was Michael O'Toole, who's also Canadian. And I didn't know if he taught, but I was like, if he does teach, I want to take a workshop from him because his paintings are out of the world, like crazy awesome. And I just thought that's my first choice. Reached out to him, no reply. And so after a while, I was like, okay. At the same time as I reached out to him, I reached out to Rick Delancey, who's a painter in California. And honestly, Rick is such a cool guy. He's awesome. I love him with all my heart. And he got back to me right away. And he said, actually, I don't teach. I'm not teaching anymore, really. If you know him, he was a high school teacher for a super long time. And he paints in oil and acrylic. But at that point, I don't know if he's changed now, but at that point, he basically had made the decision that he wasn't going to really be teaching. So then I was like, okay, is there anybody else? And I was like looking, but I wasn't as far along in my art career, so I didn't have as much background, and I didn't have as much, like knowledge of places that I could look, or people that I could ask, or things like that. So I'm not saying that there wasn't somebody else, but I just couldn't find anybody. So I ended up taking workshops again in oil painting, And I was really thinking that maybe I needed to switch to oils and all this stuff. So when I come across people like Gil Dellinger and William Hook, it's like genuinely thrilling to me, because it's like, oh my goodness, here's somebody, I could take a workshop with them. Like, wouldn't this be awesome, you know? And so it's really fun, because you realize they've been doing this, they're super, and they've been professional artists. Like, that's, I think, one of the things about William Hook, you know, just looking at him, like, okay, the guy's painted 4,000 paintings in his life. He's really well known in the art world. Like, he's a great instructor, all this stuff, and everything that he's done is in acrylics. And so, like, okay, awesome. Robert Bateman, you know, like, obviously I haven't taken a class or anything with him, and his work is quite different, but it's just cool to know. Cool to find that stuff out. Okay, well, what do you guys think? I think it's getting closer, and it's getting to be close to time, but this up here, I think, needs a little. Yeah. Oh, and I actually just read what you said, Judy, a little bit more closely. Artists think that acrylic paints are garish, like too much color, like nothing subtle about them. And I think that that's totally true. And I think it has everything to do with the fact that if you're going to paint in acrylics, and you don't have something like this Masterson Stay Wet palette, which allows you to actually mix paint over like a longer period of time, you have such a small window to mix your color. And so you're pretty much like going to be mixing a small amount of varieties, it feels like to me, and they're not going to be very nuanced. And they're, you know, so I think that that's totally true. Totally accurate. Yeah, that's probably true. I'm just reading your comment about pastel artists having to invest a lot, Jill. It probably takes a lot. Marsha Burt, okay, that's cool. She was one of the other people that I like found and looked at, and she's helped me, even though I haven't ever met her or anything like that. She helped me kind of see some different ways of organizing paint and stuff. Like, I think I talked about her the other day. She seems like a really cool person. Okay, so Sonic, if I'm saying your name correctly, you say, how long will I wait to layer with using linseed oil? I don't know. This is acrylic, and I don't know. I don't layer or do anything with linseed oil in a painting like this, and I don't know enough about oil painting to be able to really give you a knowledgeable answer. I'm sorry about that. Oh, okay. Oh, yes, that color brightens the pathway. My cousin went to art school. I'm sorry, I missed a whole bunch of comments here because I didn't know that it wasn't scrolling on its own. With Peter Schneider, and while they were having fun, he just painted and painted. He is very well known. Okay, that's cool. Do you know if golden acrylics have color shift? Yes, they do. Yes, Judy, you and Gil, and I also ordered those paints immediately. Oh, Bob Kuhn, no, I haven't. I'll look him up. That was a memorable live stream. Oh, that's cool. I'm glad, Jigger, that was interesting and kind of fun. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that some of you came across me on that live stream. I mean, it's a pretty awesome opportunity. Eric's a really great guy. I actually really respect Eric Rhodes and love him a lot. Like he's like one of the things that, you know, I learned from being at the Plein Air convention is the people, you get to know something about people when you talk to the people that are around them a lot. And one thing that I realized about Eric Rhodes was that everybody who worked with him, like all the people who worked for his company or like with him in that way, they all love him. They all like spoke so highly of him and about his attitude and how he treated people and everything like that. And I think like that's pretty awesome, right? Like, I mean, I would love if you ever like talk to somebody who works with me or, you know, does something like that. I'd love to have the same kind of thing, like where people go, yeah, you know what? Yeah, he's kind of weird and you know, whatever, but he treats people fairly and he's like really positive and he makes it a fun environment and stuff like that. Like that'd be a really big goal of mine would be that, you know, people, I'm looking at this color and I feel like it's just a little bit too, I want to bring a little bit of a cooler, lighter color in here just to offset a little bit of the warm green. I'm not going to change everything, but I just feel like it needs a little bit of kind of, because what happens is, yeah, you might have like some warmer colors, but you're also going to get some leaves that are kind of turned in a certain way that they reflect the sky color. And that sky color is almost always going to be a little bit cooler. So I think that, you know, and just thinking about the painting and in general, like how it could tie the water in a little bit, I think it will help just to bring a little bit of this cooler color into the sunlit areas. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Charlie Easton. Yeah, I know Charlie Easton. I'm just going to show some of these comments here. Lisa, another great, he's a great guy. I don't know him again that well at all, but we've interacted a tiny bit on Instagram. But I love, if you want to like look for somebody who goes to cool places, go look Charlie Easton up because he's like always painting on the water somewhere in Canada. Do you know of Jimmy at the Fine Art Collective? No, I don't know that person. And I don't know who you are, so I can't really respond to your name. James, I like watching you because so many of the sites do very basic painting while they're great for the beginners and getting people into acrylics. I was looking for something more painterly. Well, I'm glad. Thank you, Carolyn. That's really kind of you to say. I'm just going through here. Woohoo. I don't know what that was about. It's awesome. I want to be there looking at the water. Well, shoot, I appreciate that. Like, that's my favorite thing that ever happens is when somebody like feels like they could be transported to a place. So can you post the reference material for Saturday on Friday so we'll have time to study it a bit? Okay. You know, yeah, we have a Saturday class, you guys, and I just wanted to let you know that if you're interested in coming, that is like one of the overarching rewards for being part of this is I'm going to give you access to that. It's usually members only, but just because the people who've been faithful with this challenge, I like giving rewards to everybody because not everybody's going to win an award. So I'll try to do that. I'll try to post the reference photo. Yes, it's going to be fun, and it's going to be it's going to be a great time. Judy, you've helped me so much with your paint box. I know you set up your Stay Wet as I've battled mine for years. Now I'm at peace with it. Yay. I know it makes a huge difference. What do you mean by color shift? That is when your paint changes color slightly. Like if I paint something down, you know, it's really easy to tell on a painting that if you're going back in. and you're touching something up. So this will probably have a little bit of color shift. What that means is that little bit of paint that I put down will darken slightly. In acrylics, it's almost always, I think it's always, I don't know of any really significant times when it's not, but it darkens. And that's what color shift means. So when a paint doesn't have color shift, it means that it stays true to what it is when you put down. So that's why oil paintings in some ways have an advantage, because if you're trying to match this color, say I want to come in here and I need to like do this over, but I want it to be the exact same color. Well, in general, normal acrylics, if they shift colors, it's like a shade different. What you have to do is you have to like mix up a color that's lighter than this and put it down, and then hope that it dries just like that. And that can be tricky. It's not overwhelmingly, like you can get past it. Like I painted for, I mean, I just found these paints like 2 months ago or whatever. So it's not like I've been a professional artist in acrylics and I've done lots of stuff, and I've used paints that are great. They're great, but they sometimes shift a little bit. Purple of path picks up color in sky, good color harmony. Thanks, James. I appreciate it. You guys pulling it together. Okay. Boy, just going to try to get through these. Thank your wife and daughter every day for their support. Cherish every day that you have. Oh, yeah. You know, thank you so much. I love my wife and daughter so much. And they're sheesh. They're amazing. I live 10 minutes. Oh, that's cool. Where? I wonder if you're in Michigan or if you're in... state, oh yeah, Illinois, I guess, is on the other side. Acrylic University before jet doors was the early 2000s, the last glory days of the California Dreamers before it went in. Oh, it was the early 2000s, the last glory days of the California Dream before it went into flame. I don't get that. I don't know what you mean, but hey, that sounds awesome to me. In value or in color? In value. It's mostly value, but it just shifts a little bit. Carol Ann, I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Thoughts on NFT? NFT. I don't know what NFT is. Thank you. I noticed the darkening, but I haven't noticed a change in hue. Yeah, that's pretty much what I think. It's darkening more than anything else. Goodbye, James. Yeah, totally stoked about you allowing us to Saturday painting. I know will benefit from step-by-step process. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Well, we'd love to have you, and it'll be fun. I'm planning on painting at the ocean tomorrow. That's great. Okay, Southwest. Okay, guys, it's time to say bye. Thank you so much for being here. And remember, a couple things. If you haven't filled out the survey, do that. It's super helpful. And tomorrow we're going to have Peter here with us. It's going to be really fun. And then tomorrow night, Friday night, we're going to have a little celebration thing. So you may win an extra prize. And tomorrow I'll have a link for you to sign up for the class that's going to happen on Saturday if you want to. We love you. We believe in you. We're proud of you. Keep up the good painting today and show them off. It's going to be super fun to see you guys tomorrow morning. Adios.